Think we can pull one more chair around so we can get everybody on the same side?
Oh yeah, we're gonna fit. I didn't know.
Yeah, I think we could get over there. Yeah, there's some rotate around. Maybe there's some space up here if you want to get up there. Unless we get a few more, and then maybe we'll have to. We may have to do it again. Oh, looks like we do have a few more coming in. More panicked folks. Okay, I changed my mind. Maybe we do need 2 spaces. Sorry. We can do some over here. You guys want to sit over here? That's okay. You're fine. It might be easier for you guys to move over there too. That way you're not constantly looking back. I don't know. Sit right at the front. It's up to you. Okay. So if you haven't got to that form, go ahead and fill that out real quickly. My name is Lindsay Payne, and I'm the Director of Service Learning here at Purdue, and I also teach in the Environmental and Ecological Engineering Department. So I get to work a lot with engineering students around community engaged projects, but I also spend a lot of time working with community partners. And that's kind of our theme today, is to hear what our community partners think about working with us, and I say us as a Purdue entity. So this is across campus. I met with some community partners along with another member of the United Way, and we surveyed them. And we asked them really kind of the top reasons projects fail. So we're going to talk about failure today with the hopes that you learn from failure, right? So I don't have any problem with it. I know some people only want to talk about their successes, but I think it's important that we learn from the things that we did wrong. So first thing first, I ask you some questions. I wanted to know how many times you've interacted with your community partner, and I wanted you to base that upon just this semester, so if you didn't, that's okay. But I thought I would show our responses here. See if I can pull this up so you can see it. So this is how many times have you interacted with your community partner. I think someone else just filled it out. Any gut reactions to what you're seeing up here? Thoughts? Comments? No comments at all, you guys? I know it's after lunch, right? Oh. What's your reaction to this?
Like a bell curve.
Okay, yeah, it's kind of like a bell curve we got going on here, right? All right. What else? So it seems like, the highest frequency would be 4, 3 times that you've interacted with your community partners? That's 4 individuals in this room. Is anyone surprised that we have 0 here? No. Why might we have a 0? Thoughts on that? Yeah.
They've just been doing the project, or the community partner lives far away.
Okay, could be that. Could maybe be that you're not the community partner liaison and you took this very literally, and if you weren't the one that sent the email, you didn't interact with them. Maybe. I don't know. We have some. So I'm a little surprised that it's all over the board. Usually we see some more of a consistent pattern, but I don't know what that says about this group just yet. We'll find out. Let's see. In what ways have you interacted? Okay, so it looks like the majority have had site visits. How many of you have gone onto the site for your project and seen the partners? Okay, so you are the individuals that have been there. The rest of you that haven't had a chance to go, why? Out of curiosity.
Our project partner is in Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico, okay, it's a little difficult to get there, okay. Why else? Is it a distance totally? Is that the reason? Yes? Or no? You guys are going to have to start giving me some feedback. It's going to be a long 50 minutes. So distance is the main barrier? Okay. Emails and phone calls. Everyone seems to do that consistently. Does one seem to work better over the other for your partner that you've discovered? Have some of you tried both, emails and phone calls? The which does?
Emails.
Emails work better for your partner, okay. How about those of you that have found phone calls work better? Okay, mix of phone calls.
Yeah, so we do like phone calls and video chat.
Okay, that combination works well. Did you try email at first?
Yeah, we did. It takes them a while to respond.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these people probably get hundreds of emails a day, and so one email can get buried real fast, right? Phones are easy to pick up. Face-to-face is great, but sometimes you can't do that, so phone calls are good. The reason I wanted you guys to do this was just sort of starting to think about interacting with your partner. Fundamentally, that is key to all of your projects, right? And if we're not doing that with a great frequency, can probably guarantee by the end of the semester your project's not going to be as successful as it should be. And that's common sense, but it's not always the easiest to execute, right? So let's talk about other reasons. So we've kind of hit on communication, but there's some other reasons that projects are perhaps not as successful as they should be. All right, and again, these are my top 10, and these are from community partners. So this is from the mouth of those that do this. So the first one is lack of research. Is one of the reasons why projects don't fail. What do they mean by that? Well, they mean things like you don't know anything about your partner. You don't know anything about your project site. Maybe all you did was a Google and you found out their mission. All of that is an important start, right? But what else can you do to get to know your partner and learn more about that project? What are some things you can do? What are some tools that maybe you've utilized? Yeah.
Interviews.
Okay, interviews. You can do that over the phone. You can do that over email, right? Getting to know your partner. Interviews. What else?
Well, I was going to say, we do both, we're in the Lincoln neighborhood, and so
Oh, yeah. Okay.
we go to the neighborhood meetings.
Yeah.
So we're able to interact with the adults there.
Right.
Throughout the community, but we also do site visits to interact with the children who
Okay.
are at the hub.
Yeah, so there's some great ways to do it. You don't have to have formalized settings where you ask them questions, right? Just go be in those sites. Observe, engage, interact. Those are great things you can do. Take tours, interviews, we talked about that. Past documents, I assume all your teams have historical transition documents, right? That you've read through. You're supposed to nod your heads yes at this point. And you've gained information from them. If you didn't find them useful, please make them better for the next team that comes after you, right? So make sure you have some of those lessons learned and some of that really important partnership information in there. So this is one of the things that often a lot of the teams don't do is they don't get to know their partners, which means you're designing in isolation. You don't know anything about them. Who on earth are you designing for if you don't know anything about the people that you're working with, right? Time. Time is another reason why projects fail. Everything takes longer than you expect. That's a life lesson, right? There's going to be moments of failure. There's going to be opportunities where you're not going to get the communication back as quickly as you need to. So you have to allot for that in your designs and in your plans. You've got to have we'll call that a risk management plan in your process, right? You've got to think about how you're going to handle that. And don't be afraid to be persistent, right? You can send an email. I get a lot of students that say, well, I emailed them. Okay. Didn't hear back from him. Okay. What'd you do? I emailed him again. Okay. Did you hear back from him? No. What should you do?
Email again.
I wouldn't email again. You could try, but if they didn't respond to that email those first 2 times, try something else. Pick up that phone, right? Call them. See if they'll answer the phone. Go to their site. Maybe they're there. Try and engage with them. But if those emails aren't working, you got to try something different. You got to be creative, right? Think about that personal investment in space. Number 8, lack of planning is another reason projects failed. So we didn't think about this whole project, and I know it's hard because you don't know what you don't know, right? But you have to kind of think through those pieces. Make sure you have a plan. I would say, foremost, before you do any work, come up with a clarification of expectations. So what are you hoping to accomplish over the course of the semester? Have you sat down with your partner and clarified those things? Do they know what you're going to produce, and do you understand what they're going to give you to produce that product? And if you haven't done that, it's not too late. You still got time. Go back down and sit with them and talk about that. That's what I mean by memorandum of understanding. It's just a clarity of expectations. But we oftentimes don't do that, and sometimes what happens is a very big mismatch of the product and what one partner or one party expected, right? So make sure you take some time to do that. And I would say as well, this part about making weekly project updates, how many of you correspond or have a plan to correspond with your partner frequently about where you are with your project design and the status of the project? Does anyone do, yeah, what do you do? What's your team do?
So we do like a weekly video chat.
Okay.
And then we just tell them, like, we're at this point, what do you need us to do from where we are right now?
Right. So that's a very good approach to take. I was working with a senior design team in engineering, and they've been working with our streets commissioner in West Lafayette on a recycling project. They communicated with him at the beginning of the semester, clarified their objectives, didn't talk to him until November. Did not have a product that the streets commissioners wanted because they hadn't been having those conversations, right? So a few check-in points along the course of your work will make sure that you're getting a product that everyone is going to actually want. So I know it seems like kind of a silly thing to do, but build that into your project management plan. Lack of communication. All right, we've already talked about this, but think about this as a way of relationship building as well. Ask questions, be engaged, get to know that person. I mean, yes, this is a job and they are your clients and you're working with them to produce a product, but communication is important just from the standpoint of we are all humans. And we like to talk to people in varying degrees, right? So some of us are more extroverted than others. I am, clearly. I like to talk to people. Even if you're not extroverted, it's still important that you have relationships and that you get to know people, right? And that's what we talk about when we think about communication, is engaging your partners, getting to know them, and setting up these weekly check-ins and these calls to make sure everybody's on the same page. Number 6, this is another reason projects fail. It's all about me. And we tend to forget that there's others involved, all right? And what that means is, sadly, we're not the center of the universe as much as we want to think we are. Our community partners don't operate on exam deadlines and midterms and papers and semesters, right? So while, yes, those are very critical pieces in your life and they impact your timeline and your ability to engage in these projects, it doesn't really matter to your partners, okay? So you've got to really think about the fact that they've also got deadlines and timelines, but they're different than yours. And of course, they probably don't match up, but how do you work around those challenges and those obstacles to come up with a working relationship in the end that works? And a lot of these partners, I'm sure you're finding, are very busy. Who are some of the people you're working with? So Troy, I know about your project. Who are you working with?
We're working with Faith Community Development Corporation.
Okay, so you're working at the Hartford Hub, or the Hartford Hub? Okay, how about you guys?
Imagination Station.
Okay, Philip will not respond to emails ever, right? Yeah, I know Philip really well. You got to constantly be persistent with that guy. He's really busy, right? How about you?
I'm Lavish Lending Daycare Center.
Oh, the Right Steps Daycare Center down there? Oh, yes. Talk about busy. Do any of you have small children? I do, and I'll tell you, they'll drive you crazy and consume all of your time. And so when you're running a daycare, you are not going to have time to email, right? They're probably incredibly, incredibly busy. Yeah. How about you? What's your project partner?
Working with the high school robotics team,
Okay.
and we're developing like a manual for high schoolers to use to build and program a robotics thing.
Okay.
Our partner is usually involved in our meetings,
Good.
so it's more of an in-person interaction that we have.
And you probably had to set those meetings at a very specific time, I assume, right?
Yeah, it's normally during our lab we have interactions with them.
And is that towards the end of the day, right?
Yeah, kind of.
Kind of. So it probably either meets their prep schedule, I assume, or the end of the school day, right? So you have a very narrow window to interact with your partner. How about you? Who's your partner? Columbia Park Zoo. Okay. Are they busy? Seasonal? I don't know much about the zoo.
They close regularly.
So is this a good time for them to engage with you guys, I assume?
Yeah.
Yeah? Well, that's good. Okay. Do you get to have face-to-face meetings with them or no? Okay. How about you?
The Darst family. We're working. Their son has AMC, which is like a fishing disorder.
Okay.
So we're building like an assistive fishing device. For them.
Ah, okay. So do you have easy access to the family at all times, or is it limited?
We have been in contact through email and text. We've also
Okay.
we've FaceTime with them. They live in Indianapolis, so last semester we actually got to drive down
Oh, nice.
and meet
Okay.
with them and show them like what we have so far.
Good. Good. Okay. How about you guys over there?
We're working with the park from Battleground.
Okay. Is that challenging finding a time to meet with them or no?
Not really, since it's only like 20 minutes away. This like
Okay.
makes it pretty easy.
Do you do a lot of face-to-face visits because of the proximity?
A few of them, yeah.
Okay. All right. That's good. You.
We're with House, which is in Ireland, so ours is like FaceTime or like emails.
Okay.
They're slower with emails, but like we do get a response. It just takes like
Okay.
2 weeks.
And have you started factoring that into your design process then? Okay. That's good. All right. How about you?
We work at the Indiana School for the Blind and Visually Impaired.
Okay. Okay. And that's a long-time partnership. So do they have a good system for interacting with you?
Yeah,
Or?
I don't do a lot with them personally. My design lead kind of takes care of it, but we
Okay.
try to go down and visit the school like once a semester.
Good.
Maybe twice. We already went this semester actually, so hopefully we'll go 2 or 3 times.
Okay.
this semester.
All right. How about you?
Italian Bolivia.
Ah, okay. How's that communication going?
It's pretty rough.
Okay. So you really have challenges. You have time zone, language, cultural, right? So that's a very challenging space. So how are you designing? How is your team managing this? How are you communicating?
Phone calls, but they're pretty inconsistent.
Okay.
And they probably should be more.
Yeah, yeah. Are there any other ways besides phone calls, or is that really the most consistent?
I don't really do a lot with that, but I think it's the best way to do it.
Okay. Okay. All right. And how about you?
I'm also in Bolivia.
And you're also in Bolivia? Okay. And then did I ask you? Yes, I did. Okay, yeah.
I'm at the Hartford Hub as well.
Hartford Hub? Okay. All right.
University of Puerto Rico.
Oh, you're in the Puerto Rico. Yes. All right. How have you guys been communicating?
Mostly over FaceTime
Okay.
and Skype and then emails.
And is that working effectively?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last semester we had issues with it, but this
Okay.
semester our partner has been a lot better about answering
Okay.
emails and calls.
So why is that? Did you guys have a conversation about the challenges in time lapse, or?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
And then we were able to find kind of a better time that worked.
Good. And that's okay. You guys can have those conversations. Feel empowered to talk to your partners and say, okay, we acknowledge something isn't working here. We're not communicating effectively. You know, I'll pick on Philip again because I know him really well. Maybe email's not his thing. Maybe phone's better. Have you guys tried texting him or phone calls?
Yeah, we had a Skype call with them.
Yeah, sometimes even that texting works well with Philip. So it's okay to ask your partner, hey, is there a better method to go about this like this? And it may just be timing for them too. So don't be afraid to ask. How about you?
The Indiana School for Deaf.
Okay, so same project? Okay.
No.
Oh. Oh, yours was blind, yours was deaf? Oh, yes, they're different schools. Okay. How do you communicate with your partners?
We have the director of technology, and like she's the one who like emails us, and
Okay.
each team tries to go like once and like do a focus group
Okay.
every semester. So I think it's pretty stable.
Okay, good, good. And is it a long-term partnership that you guys have had, do you know?
I think it's for 4 semesters now.
Okay.
So things are-
So that's also part of the process too, is relationship building, right? So it's really hard to establish a solid partnership that works right out of the gate. So that if you're on a first semester project, you probably have some communication challenges which you're going to run up against. But that's just learning to work with others, right? That will get better over time. How about you?
A high school, we're working on the go-karts, and our project partner is always there.
Okay. And do you have a very specific time that meets their schedule that?
Yeah, kind of. He's kind of open, actually.
Oh, nice. Okay, that's good. Yeah. How about you?
I'm also part of the Colombian part of the team.
Okay. All right. And how about you?
I'm with Almost Home Humane Society.
Oh, okay. So they've undergone some changes of leadership. How is it going with communication over there?
It's going all right. Mostly we communicate with them through email,
Okay.
but we're planning to like go over there at least a couple times
Okay.
to kind of update them on what we
Okay.
have. So.
Right, because it is very close, and you should take advantage of those partners that are really close. It's a good thing to do. Okay. All right. Top 5. This is number 5. Reasons projects fail. Expecting the partner to do a multiple number of things. Be available whenever you need them. Quickly getting you a response, right? You have to really, again, this kind of goes back to communication, but we're not the center of their universe, so we've got to sometimes follow up with them. We can't, they're not at our beck and call. It may mean you have to email a couple more times. You got to pick up the phone. You may have to go see them. Don't be afraid to do that. They've entered into this project. They want something from you, right? And you want to work with them, so it's okay if you can stand up for yourself and say, hey, we want to really address these issues, these lapses in communication. What do we need to do? So it's okay to do that in a very respectful manner. Number 4, what we really think you need is, so this is where we design something that they don't need. Have any of you run into some of those issues so far? Oh, come on, someone's surely had an experience like that. No? No? Well, I give the classic example. There's a class on campus that does marketing brochures for community partners. I actually don't know where it's out of, so I don't really know much about it other than I know my community partners always come to me and they open their drawers. And they say, do you see these piles of brochures? We get one every semester. They're never what we want. And it's a perfect example of just really didn't figure out what the client needed when they produced a product, right? So you've got to ask questions. You've got to find out at the end of the day what they want. It goes back to clarifying expectations. And they may be saying something, but you've also got to get good at listening to what they're saying. It may not be exactly what they're telling you, right? So they may say, well, we really want this, But as you're designing and you think you're doing that, they're still saying, no, that's not what we want. That's digging deeper into what they really, really are wanting ultimately out of this project. And this is where you got to keep asking questions, keep going back and making sure and clarifying that what they're getting from you is really what they need. Any of you run into those moments where you feel like you're doing what they're asked, but they don't seem to want? Yes. Okay.
So, like, again, I'm on the blind team.
Okay.
And we have to design essentially like tools that'll help them, like it'll make their schoolwork easier. And like we're not blind, so it's really hard for us.
Yeah.
Like when we're making it to know if it's going to work or not, since it's still like fairly far away.
Sure.
It's difficult to talk to the students as well, and so it's a lot of revision and kind of hoping and guessing sometimes.
Yeah, but you're going through that iterative process, right? So you're constantly checking back in with them, which means at the end you're hopefully not going to get a product that isn't useful, right? So that's really important to keep checking in. Yeah. A usable product. So we can do some pretty cool things here in the College of Engineering, right? Yes, you guys can do some cool things. But they may not have the system to support the really cool thing that you can do, right? So if you turn something over to them, they may not have the right equipment or the right software to actually support that work. So keep that in mind. Or maybe they don't have anyone that can fix that really cool fancy website that you've created with all of these data analytics because they don't have anybody on staff that can do that. So make sure you're designing something that's a product that they can actually use, right? And professional looking too, of course, right? You want it to be professional for them. No follow through. Oh boy, this happens a lot. I think with service learning projects in general, we don't complete our task. Our semester ends and we're out of here, right? You may be invested in your partner, but you know when you've turned in your last final exam and the whole school year ends, you're gone, right? We see this time and time again with our community partners, and they really struggle with that because they don't operate on the course of a semester or a year. So really thinking about if you guys can't complete the project, what are the plans to make sure that it gets done the following semester, the following academic year? How does that work? That goes back to those transition documents. And then the number one reasons the projects fail is you didn't show up. Believe it or not, this is the one thing they complain about. Have any of you experienced a time when someone didn't show up for a meeting with a project partner? Any of you? No? Well, this is yes? Okay, what happened?
I mean, it's just a matter of people not getting information they need.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
Like some of us were there to talk about things, but not others. So like discrepancies in communication.
Okay, so some people didn't show up, but some of your team members did?
Yeah.
Because you didn't communicate as to who should be there? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I mean, we all knew we were supposed to be there. It's just a matter of some people didn't make it. So it's like secondhand information rather than getting it from the partner.
Right, right. And did someone raise their hand over here? I thought I saw. Yes, what happened?
Ours was just like, yeah, ours is kind of the same.
Yeah.
The same situation.
Yeah. And we acknowledge that it's not always easy for everybody to show up every time, right? Because you all have busy schedules, but that communication gap can be a challenge, right? So really thinking about how you're going to handle that is important. So maybe you are the sole representative that goes to that meeting, and that's okay, but how are you going to communicate that information to your other 3 or 4 teammates, all right? But for all practical purposes, please show up. I mean, this is the number one thing across our community that happens that makes these projects fail. They prepare for you, right? So they've spent time being prepared. If something happens, we all know things happen, right? You guys get sick, things happen. That's okay, but you have to communicate. Don't just not show up, all right? And those are common sense things, but things that maybe we don't always think to do. So those are the top 10 reasons that our community partners have said projects fail. Do you guys have any other things that don't fit in those categories that you think would be useful to share with the whole class around failures and things that we might want to address or talk about? Okay, well, how about some scenarios? So I have 3 real-world examples of things that have happened in the community. These are from my community partners. And what I want you to do is read them and then come up with a response and how you would handle it. So we'll do, let's take you and you over here, and you guys can kind of share this scenario. I'm going to give you guys this one and share, and then you guys can have this one. So take a few minutes, read through the scenario, and then come up with a response. And we're going to share it out as a class, okay? Sorry.
No, no, it's not your
Yeah,
fault.
it's gonna be a
There we
problem.
go. It's all good. It only happened a couple times. It wasn't
Yeah. Yeah, but you talk, and you talk to your team members about communicating.
Yeah, communicating, being there and not being there. Making sure they put it on a Google calendar so their schedule's clear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take a picture of that link so I can just get it out the way.
Oh, the Google link?
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, yeah. Let me put it back in.
So if it's local, yeah.
Okay, do you guys feel like you have a response and what you'll do as a collective group here? Yes? Okay, let's start with, we're going to go with scenario 1. You guys want to share out? I'll put up the scenario here if we can get to it. All right. So you're a team leader on a community engagement project. You arrange a site visit with a partner to learn more about their needs. However, you've been sick, and on the day of the visit, you forget to show up. You later find out that no one else in your team showed up. What do you do? What do you do, you guys? What'd you come up with?
We said that, well, first you should talk to your own team about how you guys have to communicate more.
Good.
And then collectively apologize to the project partner and set up a new meeting time.
Okay, so you talk to your team in that meeting. What is your product? What do you come out of that meeting with, at minimum?
Better communication.
Tool or plan, right? A better plan,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So what are you going to do? You're going to call, you're going to text, you're going to SOS, you're going to smoke, whatever you need to do, right? To communicate. When it comes to your community partner, how are you handling this like groveling apology of failure? What are you going to do?
Reschedule according to their timings and for the next meeting, and
Okay.
make sure like they're very comfortable with the timings and like, they don't have to adjust for you.
So do you email them? Do you call them? Do you go visit? What do you do? Call them? What do you guys think? What do you think?
Depends on what you agreed on before, like
Okay.
what you're comfortable with the partner. Like if you've been emailing, I guess like
Sure. Yeah, I think go with the same protocol norms that you've already been doing with your partner. If you're going to call them, you might want to have some kind of script in front of you so that you make sure you say the right things, because this is a big oops, right? So you want to make sure you really hit on those key pieces. And then once you've apologized profusely, you get to move on. And you get to do all those things you mentioned about making sure that you set up another time to connect, but you're basing it on their availability and their schedules. And yes, that's very good. So this does happen. Hopefully this never happens to any of you, because this is a big oops that's happened. Okay, scenario 2. Your teammate sends the following email to your instructor. What would you do? Hi there. As of today, we've heard nothing back from Mike, who's the community partner, about the information he said he'd get for us. He replied to my email, but only told me that we were more than welcome to interview the clients. Then he emailed another group member about the photo release, but he completely ignored my question about contacting the clients. One question, because we cannot do anything further, do we need to come to class tomorrow? My teammate and I were talking after class today, and we can't do anything else until we get with the contact of the clients. To us, it seems a little pointless to go to class and sit there with nothing to do while other people are working on information and projects. Team 2, scenario 2, what did you do?
We said that this person can kind of take responsibility for themselves. Like the partner tells this person himself that they can interview clients, and then even if that's not an option, you could probably figure out some other stuff to do. Like
Okay.
Work on the project on your own, or do research. I mean, there's always work to be done, right?
Okay, what else?